Namaskar, dear friends. I welcome you all to the Hindu editorial analysis on October 12, 2023. Friends, imagine a situation in which a group of doctors have congregated around a patient. They have agreed on the diagnosis, but they are not agreeing on the prescription of the medicine to the patient. Then what will happen? Nothing will go good for the patient. The patient will lie there just suffering from the ailment, and the beginning is zero for the patient. In the similar way, the United Nations Security Council, even the 75 years have elapsed, and is not calling for a reform. This is what discussed with the article by our own favorite member of parliament from Trivandrum, who is Dr. Shashi Tharoor. The name of the article, UN Security Council Reform, is a song in a loop. What is a song? The song by Antonius Guterres, the present Secretary of the United Nations Security Council. The song of Gali, who was the Security Council Secretary when Dr. Shashi Tharoor was with the United Nations Security Council. The reforms, they wanted it to happen in the 50th year of the Security Council, that is on 1995. However, it did not happen. Then the 60s passed, then the 70s passed, and even 75 years have passed with this song, and this song will continue. Dr. Shashi Tharoor is pointing that this song would continue even after the centenary, which is the 100th year of the Security Council. So, what is the problem? The problem of equity hinges high with the Security Council. The problem of equity lies in the matter in which there are some countries who are portrayed as the enemy countries, but they are the greatest contributors to the United Nations Security Council, just overshadowing the permanent members of the Security Council. The five permanent members of the Security Council, as you already know, US, Russia, China, France, and United Kingdom. You see, Japan and Germany, who are projected as the enemy countries, are the second and the third largest contributors to the Security Council in terms of money. India, which has contributed the second largest populous country, which is providing the human care to the Security Council, is not considered at all. Therefore, the problem of equity is there with the Security Council. They are claiming the permanent membership of the Security Council on the basis of a war which they fought some 76 years ago. This is what ridiculous. China did not even wage a war but is a permanent member of the Security Council. Friends, United Nations had 55 members when the Security Council was formed in 1945. And out of these 55 members of the United Nations, 11 members were formed as the United Nations Security Council then. Now we have 193 members in the United Nations, and out of 193 members, 15 members are there in the United Nations Security Council, which is less than 8%. Earlier it was around 22% of the when the Security Council was formed in 1945. It was around 22% of the members of the United Nations which were represented in the Security Council, and now less than 8% of the total members of the United Nations are represented in the Security Council, which is a wide disparity because it is underrepresented. Then what happens is that when the permanent members, the 15 members were raised from 11 to 15 in 1969. So, this is a great lacuna and the great question on equity. The second one is that no country wants another country to become a member of the Security Council. So, the countries who are the second in importance in the United Nations after the 5 permanent members or the 15 permanent members, they are just vying for not making another country as the permanent member of the Security Council. Everyone can, small countries and small economic countries can fight for a 2 year membership of the Security Council that is allowed by every other member. But consider for India's chances of becoming the 15 membership board, the China, which doesn't like India to become a member, even Pakistan doesn't like, Indonesia doesn't like India to get the permanent membership. So, these kinds of hazards. Consider Brazil, which is a Portuguese colony, former Portuguese colony. The Brazil, since it is a former Portuguese colony, the South American countries do not want Brazil to become a grouping within the 15 membership. Why so? Because it doesn't want this Portuguese colony to represent the America, Hispanic America. Then consider the case of Nigeria, which is the largest democracy in Africa. There are 54 countries in Africa, out of which Nigeria is the most democratic country. Egypt is the most ancient civilization country. So the membership of these countries to the United South Africa is the most economically advanced country. To the nomination of these three countries to the African from the African membership to the United Nations is opposed, and this gridlock is continuing, and this song will continue, is what Dr. Shashi Tharoor is concluding with this article, my dear friends. The next article which I am going to discuss with is central point. What is this central point? This is a key editorial article, my dear friends. This is the first key editorial article. This is discussing about the elections in Madhya Pradesh. Madhya Pradesh is in the grip of a very exciting election. The BJP, which has been power for so long, is just vying for a position in the Madhya Pradesh elections, but these chances are very less. The Congress, which has made most of the amendments because of the defections which happened some few years ago, 3 years ago, and who had defected from the Congress Kamala government to the government of Shivraj Chauhan. Thereafter, Congress made some amendments to the party, and now mostly they are equipped for the election. Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra is going to play a key game, but the caste census across the country, which the Congress is promising, will not have any effect in Madhya Pradesh, because it is very seldom the Madhya Pradesh is having some tribes people or the caste based divisions in Madhya Pradesh. Therefore, although the Congress has a greater chance, the BJP is also trying to portray the winning streak with the strategy that Shivraj Singh Chauhan will not be the chief minister after the elections, and it is just focusing core on the Hindutva logic with the consecration of the statue of Sri Adi Sankaracharya in Madhya Pradesh. Then, although the Madhya Pradesh is fully tribes land, the Hindutva ideology, how far this is going to play has to be seen. Friends, the next article which I am going to discuss is spring cleaning. The spring cleaning is the cleaning in the spring season, which is being conducted by now it is the spring season, and the cleaning which is being conducted by the GST Council. It is very surprising. In 2022, the GST Council was meeting only for two times. Now, in this year 2023, this is the fourth time GST Council is meeting. So that's very interesting. What are the changes which has been made by the GST Council with this meeting is that the GST compensation cess has been extended till 2026. Then what happened is that which is the key component of alcohol, which is the ethanol natured alcohol, which is the key component of alcohol. For it, the GST has been slashed, and for molasses, the GST has been slashed from to 5 percentage. So it will make the farmers to fill their debt burden, to fill the gaps in the debt burden and repay their money. Then the key decision which is arising from the GST Council meeting is taxation on corporate, the GST taxation on corporate and personal loans, guarantees. The guarantees were hitherto not being taxed. However, with this GST Council meeting, the corporate and the personal loans guarantees would be taxed from now. Then the article is saying that it is very high time that petroleum, electricity, and alcohol are brought into the GST net. Another change which has been made with this GST Council meeting is that the age norms of the President and other members of the GST Appellate Tribunal is being made at par with other appellate tribunals. That is a major change which has. Next article which I am going to deal with is Modinomics fails to buck the trend. This is by Pulapra Balakrishnan, a very famous writer. Often we see him writing for the Hindu. This is comparing whether the recovery after the COVID is a V-shaped recovery or not. Pulapra Balakrishnan is writing in this article that the recovery of the economy is not V-shaped. The 2000 to 2020 period had seen that the 6.5% growth has been recorded in between 2000 to 2001 to 2020 to 21. In this period, average growth has been 6.5%. And when it was predicted that this growth would continue, the post-COVID had seen that the growth is coming below this 6.5%. So there is no trend as claimed by the present government. The past 3 quarters have been very much spoilers, my dear friends. The past 3 quarters have seen that growth is receding. The first quarter after the COVID period was a very good quarter which we accept because the production just started. What played spoiler in the economy of India during the COVID times is that there was no macroeconomic stimulus. There are some countries which provided macroeconomic stimulus during the COVID times, just like Brazil. Look at the case of Brazil. They provided macroeconomic stimulus during the COVID times, and they have seen a very good growth after the COVID times. However, the growth has been slow, but they have seen the growth. However, India did never provided any macroeconomic stimulus during the COVID period. That is the reason why, after just growing for a few days of the first quarter, after the post-COVID, the growth has been very much slumped, is what this article analyzing, my dear friend. Next article is by Kaleshwaran Rajan, our own Supreme Court advocate from Kerala. He is a very renowned advocate from Kerala who has, to his credit, several important judgments just in the past. He is analyzing women's quota, rhetoric and reality. The rhetoric is that what the government tries to portend, what government tries to show us that we are there for the women, but reality is that there are some hurdles which has been put in this path. The caste census has to be conducted, then the delimitation exercise has to be conducted. The author is asking why this delimitation is necessary when it is already known that women form 50% of the population. The delimitation exercise and the caste census is needed only when we have to consider that there are certain variations in the population compositions, and as far as the women are concerned, we already know that 50% of the women population in India are women. So why this delimitation is necessary and why it is conditional upon the reservation to the parliament and assemblies to be kept. The 1993 amendment of the constitution, 76th amendment of the constitution, saw the women's appointment to the women's quota in the Panchayati Raj. Then there was no delimitation exercise and caste census conducted. Then the author is saying that we have to be the pessimistic of intelligence and the optimistic of the will. What does this mean? The pessimistic of the intelligence and optimistic of the will. The will has to be very much optimistic. Our intelligence we have to downplay. He is also referring to Article 81 2A of the Constitution, in which it is said that when the Parliament constituencies are fixed, it has to be linked to population. Thereafter, we have Article 170 of the Constitution, which says that the constituencies has to be fixed based upon the population as far as assemblies are concerned, state assemblies are concerned. However, these two articles, 81 and the 170 article, has to see that North India would gain from this delimitation exercise because the South India diligently conducted the population control measures, thereby it would stand to lose. However, the North India would gain. Then the next point it is discussing is that the articles 330 and 332 of the Constitution, which says that the population figures have to be linked with the reserved categories, that is scheduled caste and scheduled tribes reservation for the election in the constituencies has to be linked with population. Article 330 and 332. In that also, why women reservation has to be conducted only after delimitation is not known, because women are anyway 50% of the population. Throughout this article, this 50% of the population figure is focused. Therefore, although the rhetoric seems to be very good that women are empowered, the reality is very much far away from the rhetoric, is what Kaleshwaram Rajan is trying to portray. Friends, I have given some insights into most of the geopolitical and the national interest articles. Now we will discuss the key takeaways. First key takeaway is that the UN Charter requires a reform, and this has to be the will of the majority of the member states. The second one is that the elections in Madhya Pradesh is going to be a surprising figure, and the strategy which is going to be set has to be very much optimistic considering the population structure of the state. Then the third point is that GST councils have to bring the three elements, which is comprising of electricity, alcohol and petroleum, into the council's meeting discussions. All other discussions are good, but this has to be considered. The fourth key takeaway is that there is no positive figure about the growth story of the Modinomics, and it is going to be a fiction rather than reality. Then the fifth key takeaway is that the women's quota, which is being the rhetoric now, has to meet the reality. Otherwise, it will falter in its path. Friends, I have come to the conclusion of today's analysis. Meet you tomorrow. See you. Bye bye.